I was too young to get a mammogram, and I had no family history, and the lump was probably just nothing. At that point, I really pushed to get that prescription. Know your body. Go and see your doctor, get the mammogram, get checked.
When the last time you had a prostate screening?
I haven't done.
What about colonoscopy?
I've been thinking about it. I know I have to do it.
Come on, man. You know, we can't wait till something happens. We can't wait for nobody to do it for us. We got to do it ourselves.
Yeah, you're right.
You know? So we got to make it a priority, man.
Yeah, I'll do it.
Okay.
I'll do it.
Full checkup once a year, and make sure you ask the doctors to get a PSA. And important, make sure you get that colonoscopy. You're 50 now, man. You got to get that done. Okay?
This was awesome. Thank you for tuning in.
What's up, Hello News family? We have a very special guest in the building today. He is a friend of the show, very popular in the community. I don't know anybody whose supporters have a picture of them on their shirt, okay? Like just they did that on their own. But we are here to talk about something that's really cool that he's doing in the education field and financial literacy field. If you haven't put two and two together, I'm talking about the Dr. Steve Gallen, school board member for District 1. And he has a financial literacy tour that he does for his high school seniors in the district. And it's so amazing. And I had to have him on to talk about it. But enough from me. Let's bring him on the show. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the stage, Dr. Steve Gallen. Hey.
Hey, Janey. Always a pleasure. I just want to make one correction. You described me as a friend of the show. I don't consider myself a friend. I consider us family. So it's glad to be here with you. I truly respect and commend the tremendous work that you're doing. You're standing in a position of authenticity. You're speaking truth to power, and you're standing on business for the community. So I want to commend you for that. Your platform is growing, and I just want to continue to be a supporter, not as a friend, but as a family. So consider me family, and family hold each other accountable. So I don't want to get a pass on anything that we're doing or not doing. Families feud, that's okay, but they feud for the betterment of the family. So again, I want to commend you, and I'm just glad to be here to speak with you about the great work that we're doing on behalf, not of me, but of our young people and of our community and of our future.
First of all, you took me totally off guard with that. Like, don't have me crying. This is not even that type of interview, but thank you so much. And that means so much coming from somebody of your caliber, of your respect and your esteem. It's something I really, really love what you said. And I hope that, all people throughout the community, take that to heart. That just means so, so much to me. And that just is a credit to the type of person you are, the public servant you are. I don't consider you even a politician. Like, to me, you're just a very smart individual who decided to do the work for real. And this initiative that you have, to me, is just a part of that legacy and that impact that you have in the community. So, I want to jump right into it. Can we talk about this financial literacy tour that you're doing at the District 1 schools for high school seniors?
Absolutely. Before I begin, I want to give a shout out to Claudia Ann Hibbert-Smith and Danny Felton. They've been tremendous partners in this particular endeavor. As we know, there is no I in team. It is not about me. God has allowed me to simply be the conduit to this work. And as a conduit, I've been able to connect with outstanding individuals who are equally committed to the community and, more importantly, equally committed to our children. So I want to give a shout out to Claudia Ann and to Danny. They've been faithful servants in this work. Again, you mentioned the word public servant. It's about service, and this is another iteration of the service that we want to extend to our students. To get into it, I think it's important to let you know how this idea, how this initiative, how this effort was birthed. It was birthed as a part of my work with students who are part of my District 1 Student Advisory Council. For the past several years, I established a District 1 Student Advisory Council. This is comprised of representatives from the middle and the senior high schools in which I meet with them on a quarterly basis. No adults in the room from different schools. They're able to speak candidly with me about their school experiences, whether they have an issue with technology, whether there are fights at the school, whether they need more field trips, whether there are openings in their school that have extended beyond a reasonable time. The only adult that's in the room is the region director, and he or she is taking notes, but they feel that they're in a very safe space, that I'm not going to throw them under the bus, that there are not going to be any repercussions. And as a part of that work, I've been able to really give birth to some tremendous policy positions that reflect their interests in leadership and in life. And quite frankly, I believe in love, in the law of proximity, that people who are closest to the situation are in the best position to either resolve it, provide feedback, or give insight. So as a school board member, I have tremendous respect and appreciation for all of my constituents, my community members, my parents, my families, my partners. But at the end of the day, the primary individuals that we have to ensure that we meet their needs is our students. They are closest to the work that we do, and that work is in the classroom. So that law of proximity requires me to speak to students on a regular basis. When I go to schools, I don't sit in the offices. The principals know I don't drink coffee, green tea maybe, but I want to go to classrooms. I want to go to cafeterias. I want to speak with students. But this safe space provides me an opportunity on a regular basis. It's intentional and it's deliberate. Yes, I have my town hall meetings. I've had my town hall meetings since I got elected, even through the pandemic. I'm not averse to hearing from stakeholders. But again, it's very important to hear from students. That being said, several years ago, I asked the question of one of my students, has the Miami-Dade County Public Schools prepared you for life after graduation? And this was a senior. Wow. The student said to me from Carroll City, she said, I have a great grade point average. I've gotten accepted into college. I've had a tremendously enjoyable and productive high school experience. But if there's one thing that I believe that I'm not prepared for is being financially responsible. I'm smart, but I have not been exposed. I don't have experiences. I don't have a checkbook. I don't understand how a budget works. I heard about credit, but I don't know the implications of that. My mom rents, as many families do, so we've never owned a home. I want to own a home. What is it required for home ownership? These are not conversations that I have at home. These are not extended conversations that we have in a school. So that said to me, we needed to do something from a policy perspective. I proffered an item that gained unanimous support from my colleagues to explore requiring financial literacy in our schools. Several months later, Janey, I believe, and I'll take it as a form of flattery, they're not the first to copy my style, copy my answer, but the state several months ago then filed a bill to require financial literacy. So I have the receipts. You can look at the state legislation and you can look at my board item. I was out the gate first on this issue, but I have no issues because it's not about me. If it's something that's going to benefit students in Miami-Dade, students across the state of Florida, to require some exposure and insight to financial literacy, let's have at it. Again, I've been blessed to be the conduit. There's no I in team. I wanted to then extend that work to engage our seniors at the most critical time in their lives. And I partnered with Claudianne, partnered with Danny, and we have gone on this tour now finishing our second year. We speak directly to seniors in a very safe space. We do have a formal presentation. We want to give them specific information, but we also have personal stories and anecdotes about lessons that we've learned. I being a graduate of Miami Northwestern, Danny, a graduate of Central, Claudianne, a graduate of Carroll City. All of us, none of us were born with a silver spoon in our mouths. So we had some hiccups, we had some setbacks. Danny went to the military before he went to college. Claudianne tells her story as a young teenage mother. I was a teenage father, the young of 6, to graduate and go to college. My brothers went to prison. My father left this world with an 8th grade education, but I believe a PhD in wisdom. My mother earned her GED at the age of 45. But these were not conversations that we had at the kitchen table. But we do know these conversations happen with intentionality, with regularity in certain homes, in certain communities, in certain zip codes. So we have to be intentional about providing additional exposure and access to our students. And last but not least, I've described this as gardening. We are out there planting seeds that we hope will bear fruit. What kind of seeds? Seeds of insight, seeds of wisdom, seeds of knowledge, seeds regarding decision making. And we pray that they bear fruit 5, 10, 15 years from now, so that we can start to build a pathway and a platform for generational wealth, of which I have proffered, I believe begins with home ownership.
Wow. This is amazing. You know, I've saw, you know, you said it's the second year. So last year I saw when you had the financial literacy tour, and this year, and we talking, you know, we spoken offline about, you know, this program that you're doing, which I think is amazing. And I wish I'm a product of Miami-Dade County Schools, that I had this, so that some of the pitfalls that I had with credit and, you know, things with student loans and financial, you know, literacy and budget, that I didn't have those hiccups. So these kids just don't know how lucky they are and how blessed they are. Something that you said to me before in the past about this program, to me, that makes it so unique is the fact that you, Danny, and Claudienne, like you said, are self-made. You know, it's out there. Y'all got some M's. Y'all millionaires. And that, I think, to me, the representation that you're showing, the intention of that representation, because before, you know, and when I was growing up, it was the football players, it was the rappers from, you know, our community that I saw as millionaires. I didn't know the doctors, the businessmen, the, you know, the people who, you know, made money in a different way. Was that intentional for you to do that? And if so, why was it important to do that?
I think you hit it on the nail. What they see is what they can be. If they only see athletes or entertainers on television, and they have this notion or this image that a millionaire, if you will, is someone who is out of reach, they have an opportunity to see 3 individuals who are official millionaires in their presence, documented receipts, and they're able to hear how we got there. Danny has told the story. I'm going to tell some of mine, but Danny has told the story about his first home purchase. He had 2 credit cards. One had $5,000, another had another $5,000. And he came into knowledge of a home that was available for sale. I think he said in Clewiston, Florida, for $17,000. He maxed out both of those credit cards, took the money out, and borrowed $7,000 from a sibling. He bought the house cash, spent some time fixing it up, a trade and a skill that he learned in the military, how to repair houses. He also tells the story of my house. Danny worked on my house about 25 years ago, helping me put new windows in. Windows that I bought used, but I thought that it would enhance my home. So he had skills. He had access to some capital. He turned around and sold the house that he paid $17,000 for about $80,000 in a short period of time. So that was his first purchase. Claudienne tells the story of how she made her first purchase. I tell the story about my first purchase. Home ownership is usually that initial catalyst as relates to us being able to replicate and to expand our capital and our financial position. I believe home ownership is one of the most critical staples of the American dream, but too often, too many are left out of it. It's very elusive. It's more elusive in South Florida. Home ownership and affordability is at the top of mind on every legislative level. At the local level, they're talking about affordability. At the state level, they talk about affordability. In presidential politics, they talk about affordability. So home ownership has always been an indicator of the American dream. But why is it a dream that evades too many Americans? And we know that if there is something that's going to evade Americans, the least, the last, and the lost are usually the last to having access to that opportunity. And it's usually people from marginalized communities of Black and brown individuals. And we have to have those conversations because they do. I came into home ownership as a teacher. Graduated from college in 3 years, had 2 children, making $19,000 a year. Shout out to MD. My first home that I live in right now was purchased with a grant for about $3,000 that was forgivable. I was able to save some money through my investments as a young teacher. I tell that story about TSA. So if you talk to the students that we were involved with over the past week, they can tell you, if you say, what is a TSA? They'll tell you tax sheltered annuity.
I was just about to ask you what that was.
Tax sheltered annuity. That was the initial pathway for me saving money. One of the clips that I did post was about budgeting. And in most budgets, you're paying everyone else, but you're not paying yourself. So on that graph, that was missing, savings. But we want to go beyond saving. We want to be introduced to investing. There's a difference. There's a difference. Saving money, letting it sit and not grow, not bring a return, that's an effort in futility if you're trying to build generational wealth. But investments, and the most important thing our young people have that we don't, they have time. And investing and to get a good return takes time. So I started investing through something as simple as a tax sheltered annuity, a concept that was explained to me by a teacher, the late Miss James at South High, at Fowler Middle School, where I started teaching. And she told me, you're young enough, you should put some money away. I started putting money away before the government got it. Very interesting concept of what a tax sheltered annuity is. If you make $1,000, the government is going to get their money first and tax you on $1,000. Is that your understanding, correct?
Yes.
The law allows for you to shelter some of that income through what is called a tax sheltered annuity. So imagine being in a room with your money and the government is on its way to collect theirs. Tax shelter annuity allows you to take some money out before the government comes into the room to get theirs. So if I made $1,000 and I'm sheltering $150 or $75 or $100, whatever the case may be, when the government comes in to get their portion, they're only going to tax me on $850. But I put this money away. Obviously, that money should be put away for an extended period of time, usually 59 and a half. You can access it with minimal penalties or liabilities, but it's your money. You have access to it. And I was able to purchase my house with a grant from MAP, money I put away in an annuity that I pulled out, and I bought this home that I paid $75,000, $76,000 for. That's worth about $600,000. The home I live in. I had mentors like a Dr. Solomon Stinson on my way to defend my dissertation. He asked me how my house hunting is coming along. I told him it's okay. He said, are you doing a 15 or a 30? I didn't understand the question. The question is 15-year mortgage or 30-year mortgage. Most people get a 30-year mortgage. That's all we know. He said, ask for both. There was a $284 difference between a 15-year mortgage and a 30-year mortgage. And I would save $80,000 in interest. I was making $19,000. I went to become an assistant principal at 23, making $41,069, still putting money away. So although I was making $41,000, I was putting money away, what is called maxing out. The government was only going to tax me on $30,000 because I'm putting $10,000, $11,000 away a year. From assistant principal to principal, making $70,000. From $70,000 to a high school principal, making $100,000. Then a district administrator making $140,000, and then obviously a superintendent of schools. So I was always in the position that the more money I made, the more money I was going to put away. I was going to shelter. And then when I wind up paying this house off too early, instead of moving to Weston or Miramar or Davie or whatever, I refinanced this house and bought 5 houses in different places. And one of the properties I brag about, I tell the young people that, yeah, it's okay to invest and be smart, but you do want to splurge. I told them yesterday, they laughed. I said, yeah, suit tailored, bottoms red. They got a reaction out of that. That was yesterday. I say, I want to tell you to be responsible, but let's be clear, suit was tailored and the bottoms were red. Okay. So I like the other things in life, and the range was in the garage, and we okay with that. But they see it from other people who are not professional, are not productive, and in many cases are not responsible. So they need to see there's a pathway toward prosperity that's productive, that's responsible, and that's professional, and that's something you can be proud of. And I invested in places like Kansas City, Atlanta, and at one point in my time, I was principal. I had maybe 11 houses. I was principal at Northwestern, sitting on 11 houses. Wow. And one of my first properties in Kansas City, I bought it for maybe $20,000. And maybe a month and a half later, someone wanted to pay me $100,000 for it to tear it down because they needed that lot to build the senior citizen center. That's when I bought my first Range Rover. I did buy me a Range Rover there. So
I like it. Work hard, play hard.
Yeah, so you save money and then you make decisions. At a certain point, like Claudiane said, she had a property for 18 years and she got all of she needed to get out of that property. Then she turned around and sold it for a significant profit to invest in another property. So now if you take your money and you just go to the mall with it, that's a different story. But if you take your money and you flip it into something else, you'll mitigate capital gains tax, number one, but also you'll continue to have an asset. And our young people need to be exposed to these conversations. We talk about credit, we talk about investing, we talk about insurance, and we talk about these things that young people may not get out of a textbook, and very often we, in our own personal lives, didn't get at home and didn't get from many of our community stakeholders. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to go above and beyond what the traditional curriculum provides for, and we're just planting seeds. That's what we're doing, and it's been a blessing.
This is amazing, and something that I like to commend, and I tell a lot of people like the examples of like the work that you do in your district as an elected official. Like I said, you're not a politician to me, you're a public servant. You reach the people where they are, and you do it in a very tangible, a very relatable way. And to me, this is just like I said, the extension of the impact and legacy that you have. Like I went to your Student of the Month event a couple of was that last month, and just seeing the community and the engagement and how proud these parents are. And I wanted to know, what are the parents saying to you about this financial literacy tour? I'm interested to know, like, what do they think about it?
They're very excited. Again, most parents in these scenarios say what we say. We didn't have access to this kind of information. We didn't have access to this insight. So parents, let me say this, and I told the young people I pause for effect. So I'm going to pause for effect.
Okay.
Most, if not all parents, want their children to have better lives than they did. So if a parent, his or her entire life rented, they want to position themselves for their children to be homeowners. If a parent graduated high school, they would like for their children to go to college or trade school. If a parent earned a bachelor's degree, they aspire for their daughter or son to earn a master's degree or a doctorate degree. That's the theory and the expectation that any civilization, any caring, compassionate, competent civilization want a better future for their children than the present that they experience. And we as a people, Black people specifically, we've come a long way. Even though we have continued challenges, we have to concede it's much better than it was for my mother, my father, my grandfather, my grandparents, great-grandparents, and we want things to continuously get better for our children. I have an 11-year-old. I want things to be better for her. I want her to have a better understanding, better opportunities, better access. I have older children. You can plant the seeds for them. It's not because of lack of knowledge. And both of my children graduated high school, attended college. So they were in a better position to move forward with their learning in their lives. So parents embrace any opportunity for their children to be exposed and to have access to information and insight that will improve not only their learning, but their lives. And we often ask the question about what's coming up. And the first thing high school seniors say, what's coming up? Graduation. And we say, what's the most important day coming up? They'll say, let's say graduation, May 30th. And I'll say, no, that's not the most important day. It's a celebratory day, but the most important day will be May 31st or June 1st. Life after graduation, what does that look like for you? And how do you make decisions moving forward? Last but not least in that topic, If they don't learn anything else, I open up by saying, we're going to teach you a few words, but one word we're going to teach you is no.
Why is that?
I need you to put this cell phone in my name. No. I need you to co-sign for this car. No. I need you to put this apartment in my name. No. I need you to sign for this credit card. No. It may come from Aunt Pat, Uncle Jack, your father, your mother, whomever. I love you. I respect you. I'm grateful for everything you've done for me. But right now, my life as reflected in my credit is a clean slate. And I want to move forward. I want to graduate. I want to own a home. I want to have a family. And the decisions I make right now can impact me later in the future. And if you love me and respect me, you would ask yourself, why can't you do it? Because obviously you compromised yours, don't compromise mine. And they have to stand on business and stand on their business. And when I said that, the kids started clapping. Because too often we stand on other people's business at the expense of our own. How many people sign for other people? They don't know. They don't know. They're going to go onto these college campuses. They're going to be offered credit cards. And there's nothing in life that's free. There's no free lunch in life. You're not entitled to anything you're not willing to work, sweat, and struggle for. And credit is so important, not only because it allows you to procure things, I explained, get things, acquire things, but it also dictates access. If you apply for an apartment, they're checking your credit. If you're applying for a certain job, they're checking your credit. I explained to them when I was on a national search to be a superintendent, they did background checks and everything else, came to Miami, visited Northwestern, visited the district, talked to the PTA, talked to the union, talked to the faith-based community. They did everything like a real background search. They looked and scrubbed all of my social media. So that's something they looked at in social media. I didn't have it at the time, to be honest. So they were working scrub. But one of the things they did a credit check. They had all of my financials, how much money I owed, what debts I had. And they wanted to know if we hand the keys over to this district where you have the ability to procure hundreds of millions of dollars, and that means spend money, that you're not going to be in a position that you're financially vulnerable, and your vulnerability will lead to desperation. And your desperation will lead to bad decision making. And that's how people get compromised. So I've been blessed that as an elected official, as a public servant, that I can stand on my own business. You understand what I mean? That I understand what public service is not about serving me, it's about serving the public. And that's something that, all the way to the top, people have issues, with that. And we just have to be mindful of that. And again, financial independence is a strong position to be in. And I'm just humbled and honored that I was able to begin that journey 35 plus years ago and where I am today. And to be able to give that back to young people.
Love it. And people, what he's saying is, because he got his own coins, he is not bought and paid for like some, you see that a lot of times in politics. And I think, to me, I tell people like you're an example of how to do this because of how you built your wealth and your your finances, that you can remain true to the people. So like you said, because of, unfortunately, people do things out of desperation, like you said, out of financial struggle, and, being able to build yourself up this way, you aren't able to be compromised in that way. And I really, really love this example that you have for the students. What are some things that are they taking away with them? Are you giving them like a financial planner? Are there like apps you guys are telling them? Like, what are some takeaways that you guys give the seniors when they're done with their seminar?
We give them a framework, more importantly. You'll be surprised at some of the books that the students have already read. We had a young man that read Millionaire Mindset. One book we often recommend very strongly, and we didn't have enough time to get all of the books for the students, but we would like to place Rich Dad, Poor Dad in their hands. That's a life-changing book, but it really speaks about home ownership and investment, but it talks about, again, being responsible with your finances. So as we grow this particular effort, we're going to make sure that students have something that they can use as tools. But I believe that aside from artifacts and things, the most important asset that you can have is information. Knowledge is power. So if you leave your book on the table, or you lose your book and leave it on the train or on the bus in somebody's car, you're going to have that knowledge in your head no matter where you go. And what we said is you're going to take that word no with you all the time. You're going to take that goal of home ownership with you all the time. You're going to take that understanding of recognizing that credit is not just a number. It is something that speaks to your credibility and your character. Credit speaks to your credibility and your character because you stand on business, you stand on your word, you honor your commitments, you take and you pay back. And those are some of the things that are fundamentally important to young people. And if we did this in 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, 12th grade, it gets lost. But we're talking 3 weeks in some occasions that this is going to be real for young people transitioning into the world. We can't do it all, but we have to do something. And my late father would say, start where you are, use what you have, and do what you can. And what we're doing is something that hasn't been done. If we want to continue to do it and allow it to grow.
Man, this is amazing, and kudos to you for doing this. To me, you stood in the gap of where there was, a lack, and you were creative and innovative and created a solution that impacted policy for the entire state. I'm gonna say it like somebody definitely jacked you and was like, "Oh, we see what he doing. We gonna do it on the state level." That's definitely what happened.
You can go online, look at my board items, and look at the legislation. See when the board item was approved, and see when the legislation was proposed, and that's okay. Imitation is a great form of flattery, and the state is not the first, and I'm sure they won't be the last. But if that imitation,
it's a great thing because students across the state need this.
Yes, and if that imitation benefits students, as I said before, it's not about me. You mentioned something about public servants. I reflect because what's understood doesn't have to be explained. What's known doesn't have to be stated. Before I became a school board member, I had a whole career. Full stop. There's nothing. If you're waiting for something else, I had a bachelor's degree. I earned a bachelor's degree. I earned a master's degree. I earned a doctorate degree. I had a full career. And this has just allowed me to have the experiences and the exposure, and in many cases, the expertise to be able to make things better for children, for families, and for this community. If we make things better for children and families, our community will be that much better. And I want that to be the legacy. So we spoke and touched and engaged over 1,000 students over the course of 3 days.
What were the schools that you went to?
My District 1 schools, Carroll City, North Miami, New Orleans, and North Miami Beach, which is in my district as well. And hands down, you asked the end of the question, being the educator that I am, have you learned something? Every hand goes up. Every hand goes up because, it's fresh, it's relevant, and it's real, and it's about time. And young people have their whole lives ahead of them. And if we can do one thing to help them shape and chart the course for their lives, that one thing will be significant. And that's all we have to do. So if I do my part, you do your part, other people do their part, and we collectively do our parts, things will be better for all of us. And I'm just glad and humbled that God allows me in this space at this time to do the part that I'm doing, and to have partners that are with me that have no vested interest, no money, no compensation tied to this, but they're willing to invest their time, their talent, and their treasure into our students. Shout out to Danny Felton and Claudia Ann Hibbert-Smith.
Yeah, both of them are amazing people. Had a chance to talk to them both. My last question before I let you go, I know you got to run, but I want to know, you have this this really cool line. Actually, you have an op-ed now on High Low News that people should go read about the U.S. Department of Education and everything that's going on with funding and defunding it. But there's a line at the end that says from Florida City to county line, which brings me to my question of, has Miami-Dade County Public Schools thought about extending this tour that you created for all districts throughout Miami-Dade County? Is there any talks about doing that? Because to me, I'm like, this should be for all high school seniors in Miami-Dade County.
Well, I can't speak. We're elected by school voting districts. I am committed to Florida City to County Line Road. And let me just give you a history of that line. You know where that line came from? That line
came from you.
It came from me in 2016 when I was elected. We know that District 1 had the highest number of failing schools. We don't have any failing schools anymore. We have one school that had 5 consecutive Fs. That school has no Fs or no Ds anymore. It's easy and it's convenient for me to lay that liability, that culpability upon a predecessor who was, was in the position that I am. Politically, that is convenient. It is. It's convenient. And quite frankly, in politics, it's fair game. But we are a unified school district. So my position was board members in Coral Gables, they should have been concerned about what's happening here. Board members in Pinecrest, they should have been concerned as well. Our superintendent, our school district was receiving accolades, awards, and all of great things. So from Florida City to County Line Road, although I'm elected here, we should always be concerned and advocate as much as we can, respectfully, because individual districts elect their representatives. So we respect that, but we want to be supportive of advancing educational agendas for all children. However, the human capital, the role and the responsibility, and something that I individually assume responsibility to do, I have not promoted that district-wide. There's a policy, but there are no restrictions from that being replicated in some shape, form, or fashion. And I'm not suggesting that it's not, but I've not seen any evidence of it. There's no policy to say that I have to do student every month, but I do. There's no policy that says I have to have town hall meetings, but I do. There's no policy that said I have to do a Black History Month showcase involving my students now going into the 10th year next year, but I do. Wow. I did. So we individually have to look at and assess our backyards, and what they always say is sweep around your own front porch first. So we've been sweeping in District 1. We're going to keep sweeping. We're going to sweep out the failure. We're going to sweep out the apathy. We're going to sweep away the disingenuousness. We're going to sweep away some of the problems we're having in our schools, and we continue to have them, but we're going to continue to sweep at it. And we're going to sweep in success. We're going to sweep in parental involvement. We're going to sweep in a shared sense of responsibility. Shout out to my other elected officials. They put their shoulder to the wheel and work on what happens in our schools. I don't want to call names because I don't want to leave some out, but Miami Gardens officials, North Miami officials, North Miami Beach officials, they do things to celebrate our children and our schools. They celebrate our teachers and our schools, but that's an indication of our shared responsibility as it relates to understanding that if we're going to move this community, if we're going to move this state, if we're going to move this nation, if we're going to move this world, we have to move our children in the right direction.
Thank you. Thank you. This has been amazing. I found myself getting lost sometimes in what you're saying because you're teaching me, at my big, grown age, but that just goes to show how much of a need this is. I'm hoping that the adults watching are taking notes too, because there are terms and strategies for financial literacy that you were dropping that I'm like, hold up, I need to give me a TSA. Look, this is so great. Dr. Gallen, is there anything else that you want people to know before, you step out of here? Anything about following you or any upcoming initiatives that you want people to know about?
No, we're just wrapping up the end of the year. As a lifelong educator, we know that commencement does not reflect the end, it reflects the beginning. So as we wrap up one year, we begin and plan for another one. As our young people get ready to transition out of our schools, they're going to be transitioning into the real world. So again, this work is cyclical. It doesn't stop. It continues. As my brother Freezy says, the grind don't stop. So the grind in education, shout out to Freezy and Flow Ride and those who are doing tremendous work and investing in our community. So everybody's doing their part, whether they're buying the block or really investing. And shout out to so many people. I don't want to get in trouble because I've been on my other two. I like to eat. I've been eating. I always eat at Black-owned restaurants. I go there. Shout out to Starrex. I went to Eula and whatever restaurant I got some food. I ate there. Delamay. I mean, it's just so many great things. Lorna's, love. I mean, just you do what you can to support Black-owned and small minority businesses. And guess what? We do it because we should do it, and we did it at one point when we didn't have a choice. There was a time that we didn't have a choice but to support each other. I want to say that. There was a time in history where we had to support each other because we couldn't go to Miami Beach. We couldn't go to Doral. We couldn't go to Naples. We couldn't go anywhere but over town in Liberty City, and we had to support our own. So we have to continue that spirit of commitment, community, and support, and that's what we want to do. And last but not least, speaking of support, we have to support you, Black-owned media. You know,
Thank you.
media is not always what it's reflected to be. And throughout history, we've always told our own stories. That's why it's called history, but history says it's his story. We have to be serious about telling our own stories. That's why I write books. That's why I do documentaries. We have to tell our own stories, and you have been critically invaluable in telling the story of our community, telling this story today, and I've seen you told so many stories and providing this platform. So I want to wish you well and continue to support you and pray that you continue to tell stories, but in telling stories, continue to tell the truth.
Thank you so much, man. I might drop on that. Like, there's nothing else to say after that. Dr. Gallen, you are always a wealth of knowledge, always a cool soundbite, and always, swaggy and, dressed to the nines. I mean, you look casual today, but I'm loving this jean, top that you have on. I'm pretty sure those are some designer glasses that you have. Like, he was on our best dress list. We did a fun list a few years back, and I always like to talk to Dr. Gallen about fashion.
You got to run it back. You got to run it back. You got to run it back.
Look, that started so much.
Run it back. Tell the truth. Stand on business. Run it back.
I think I'm gonna run it back. Run it back. But you're always a pleasure. I hope you come back. I would love to talk to you about you mentioned a documentary. I seen a preview for the Mecca, and you have your own documentary about your life, So can we please come back and talk about that? Because those are some cool things that you have coming up.
The Heart of the City is part 3 of the installment of Light Found in the Dark. It's called Heart of the City. Woo!
I can't wait. I can't wait. People, see, you got so much going on. Look, you need a whole 2-hour situation. No, you need a series. It's so much, but I'm so grateful. City, so grateful.
Heart of the City culminates the journey. Part 1, my life growing up in Liberty City. Part 2 was my journey in Miami-Dade County Public Schools. Heart of the City, really speaks to and tells the story of my traverse to New Jersey, my opportunities, my successes, my challenges, my setbacks, and what I believe was a setback for a come up. And my come up and my return came back home. It talks about me running for the school board, the dynamics with that. And it also talks about many of the challenges that have come with public service. And really, as one of the commentators in the documentary say, when you have the willingness to stand, speak, and fight, that comes with a price. And sometimes that price is not effectuated on you. It's not levied against you. Sometimes it can even be levied against your family. So it's a very compelling story, and but it's one that has to be told, and it's one that is going to be told in Heart of the City. And I say Heart of the City because this city has been tremendously a blessing to me. And no matter where I go, I will always have the heart of this city with me.
That's amazing. Look, I'm gonna stop myself because as a journalist, I have like 10 questions that I want to ask about that documentary, but we're gonna save that for a part 2. But that just lets people know.
I drop a little nuggets on stories, and they go. People say, "Where is it?" A few pieces. We'll get to it.
This has been amazing. I know you got to run, but I appreciate you for taking time for sharing this story and this initiative. Always your support of High-Low News. I always say you were one of the first. Actually, I probably one of the first elected official that I interviewed in my capacity as High-Low News. Of course, people know me from my time at the Miami Herald and Miami Times, but to come on my independent platform, you saw value in it. And I want to say thank you and give you your flowers, because I think because of that cosign that you gave me, it allowed other elected officials to come on and have conversations with me. And so I want to say thank you publicly for that. And as always, thank you for not being just a friend, but family, as you said, of the show and of the platform that is High-Low News.
Yeah, and Janey, I'm gonna be quiet. I know you wanted the last word, but I'm gonna have it.
No. You are the orator. You can say whatever you want.
We talk about the platform, we talk about programs, we talk about places, but all of those things are reflected based on the people. So your platform reflects you. You're a product of this community. You graduated from our schools. You went away to college. You have a resume. You have receipts. You have credibility. So if we don't celebrate and support and give value to young people like you who did everything and more that was asked of them to prepare themselves to be in the space that they're in, shame on us. So my message to you is know who you are. Know who you are, and stand on your business and stand on your receipts. And they talk about Shedeur Sanders, and that's this whole debate with Deion Sanders' son. And I did a simple post, and people understood what I was saying. And I was talking about me, and I was talking about people in the school system over the course of my 3 decades. When I was coming up very young, they called me arrogant. They called somebody else confident. Arrogant because we're prepared, confident because they're different. But that speaks to this whole notion of us being expected to stay in our place. What is our place?
That part.
If you want to talk about what is our place, then let's go all the way back to Egypt before slavery. Our place is that we come from kings and queens. So our places of greatness, our places of brilliance, our places from intelligence, creativity, scientific innovation. What place? But Carter G. Woodson did say in The Miseducation of the Negro, too often we seek to find a place that relegates us to the status that people did when they took us from where they brought us from. So I'm not against anybody, but I'm always going to be for us. As Wale say, I'm rooting for everything that's Black, unapologetic. And I'm rooting for you.
This is why they had you on that T-shirt with that third eye. This is why you. I told people, I said, that Northwestern, they love that Dr. Gallen. They love him over there. And this is part of the reason why. I told you, your legend, even when I was in high school, everybody knew of Dr. Gallen and who was this young, cool, smart principal there. And to me, I just love to see that still lives on, that impact and that legacy, as I keep saying, lives on. But this
you know about that? You know about that?
Y'all hear these bars he dropping?
You know about that? Northwestern during those days, take it to the house. Okay, shut up. You're the bull.
You were the cool principal. Everybody loved you. Like,
what's going on? We did things, but we stepped outside of the box. I met students where they were. I enabled them to celebrate who they were. In Northwestern, not only was I the principal, I was a graduate of the school. That set the foundation for leadership, for love of learning, and for understanding that we have a responsibility to give back in a spirit of service. So, Northwestern was different, always been different. But hey,
you're definitely a part of that thread of the greatness that is that school, but just our entire community. We're better because of you. And thank you so much, Dr. Gallen. And kudos to you. And if there's anything else we could do to support you, we will. Guys, we will leave it there. This has now become a special edition episode. So we're gonna leave it with Dr. Gallen. He's the whole show. He is that. He is not bigger than the program. He is the program. Okay. So thank you, Dr. Gallen. This has been another amazing episode, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye.